Welcome to Życie Bez Gruchy, life without purse. Today on the show we have a serial entrepreneur, innovator, self-made billionaire, born in Ukraine immigrant, Alex Mashinsky, who is the founder and CEO of Celsius Network. And personally, he's a husband and a dad of 6. Alex also is the founder of 3 unicorns, inventor of VoIP technology that we're now using basically to, talk for free and communicate online. And he has an absolutely incredible life story to share with you all. Alex, thank you for your time. Welcome to the podcast.
Cześć, Polska. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks. Cześć, Alex. Alex, so, the reason I wanted to bring you in is twofold. Firstly, I'm a Celsian myself, and I discovered you guys like 6 months ago. Obviously I'm Polish, and we have mainly Polish audience, but not only. And what I did is I converted my fiat money because I started learning about money as a business owner. And I discovered Celsius, and what I was looking, I did a lot of research, and I researched the guys who is behind the project, because I know the technology, but who's behind the project. And when I looked at you, dads of 6, family man, great sense of humor, super successful guy, and then you said, "Oh, I'm from Ukraine," and then you said that that beautiful story of how you immigrated to the US, and you have an absolutely inspiring, origin story to tell. And that's how I trusted Celsius, because of you, because of the family, because of the values, not because crypto, 8% is great. That's the reward. We're going to get there. But I was looking at the values. And then when I brought my business partner and my employees, I always say, hey, because they say, "Oh, look at that guy, he's a speculator. He made like $1 million trading." I'm like, look at that guy. 3 unicorns, family, values, and steady. And so that's why, I wanted to bring you in, and I put a lot of my, crypto wealth into Celsius. So I trust you guys, even though some people were saying, "Oh, be careful because the terms and conditions say that if you lose, you're going to lose everything." I'm like, no, look who's behind. So that's, the reason number one. Secondly, I would like to make this podcast a bit different than others where we don't use, too much crypto geeky words, even though we're technology guys, because it's all about bringing other people who don't have the crypto knowledge, how they can put even their dollars to earn that 10, 11% when they decide to earn in sales. So that's the purpose why we're recording. But now, if you could, tell us about your beautiful origin story, and the humble beginnings in the communist, Ukraine. Take us there. Let's start from there.
Yeah. So like you, I also put all of my crypto in Celsius. So we're in it heavy. So just before I tell you my personal story, that so I personally have over $300 million in Celsius, and that forces you. It forces you as a CEO, and I'm the largest shareholder. I own most of the company, right, from an equity standpoint. But having so much money in Celsius as a user forces you to think about the user, not about you as a shareholder, right? So, and then all the decisions are very easy. Like people say to me, "Alex, how come you make decisions so fast?" I'm like, because I think about what is best for me as a user, and it always applies to the million people that are using Celsius today. So. But it's funny. You asked me about my personal story. My last name is Mashinsky, right? And Mashinsky is a Polish name.
Maszyna.
Yeah, but no one ever asked me. No one said, "Wait a second, you're born in the Ukraine. How come you have a Polish name?" So I'll tell you the story that I don't think anyone really knows. You'll have an exclusive, you see, on the whatever. So on YouTube. So the story goes that my grandfather, this is before World War II. He lived in, it was outside of Moscow, but it wasn't in the Ukraine, and basically they saw the war coming, and our family name was actually Sherman, right? And he said, look, if I change my name to a different name, then because they used to recruit the Jews first. The Jews were the first ones to go to the military. So he said, if they know that my name is Sherman, they're going to take me immediately. But if I change my name, I might escape. So he changes his name to a Polish name because, that was like an easy one. And he thinks he's safe. And of course, the neighbors say, oh, that guy, he's a Jew. He's not Mashinsky, he is Sherman. So they take him immediately to the military. And back, this is in 1938, I think. The Russians were really worried about the Japanese. They weren't worried about the German because they haven't signed yet, but they thought that they would have an agreement with the Germans and not to fight with each other, right? So they took all these people and they sent them to the Eastern Front. They sent them to Kamchatka and all these places. And my grandfather was sure that he's going to get killed. Meanwhile, that was the safest place to be, as far away from the war as possible. There was never a war on the Eastern Front. So in Russia, we have a story about the little bird, that says this little bird is on this, it's like trying to cross the street, and it's freezing cold in the winter and it can't make it. And it just stops right there. And it's like, on its last breath. And the horse with the carriage passes by, and the horse poops on the bird. And the bird, even though it's pooped, the bird just gets the warmth and it recovers. And then the dog comes and pulls it out of the shit and eats it. So, and the story, this is a typical Russian story, that the person who poops in you is not always your enemy, and the person who takes you out is not always your friend. So this is the same story here, that having the wrong last name, if they saved him, if he didn't go to the military, he would probably be dead because of so many people died, obviously, on the Western Front. All that area became German territory. But the people who pooped on you actually saved your life. So that's my 2 cents. So that's why my last name is Mashinsky.
Thanks for sharing the story. And then we have so much in common. I'm not gonna be going into history, but there is so much in common that it's obvious. But I would like you to, because I was growing up in an orphanage in Poland, and I know I had the outhouse exactly like the same like you. Yeah, imagine that. Like even in even it was 20 something years ago, but still, because I was growing up in a poor family. I left Poland then when I was 18. Immigrated like many people, to London or Germany or whatever, and then I started my software business, and then grew it. Now we have 20 people, and I found a lot of business in the US. And during the pandemic, I moved here. But anyway, I would like you to, because that's another point in common. When you said that, I'm like, that's my guy. Post-military, very similar, sort of geographics, and I want to. Learn from you. I want you to be my mentor, and I'm watching every shows that you guys do because we have so much in common, like when people speak in the US, I cannot relate. They have totally different, I know that if you made it like you, from Ukraine, and then you immigrated, if you immigrated and you did all of that and you're still doing a lot of good here in the US, you can probably do 10x more than people that were born here because they don't get those values and they don't appreciate that. So if you could say about, the outhouse story and those humble beginnings.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think most Americans don't appreciate neither the freedom nor the opportunity that they have. They take it for granted, right? And they don't understand how bad the rest of the world is from an economic or social or political standpoint. So they complain about the silliest thing. My internet is not fast enough, My salad didn't have toppings, I had to sit in coach flying from here to there. I went on vacation to this place that wasn't 5 stars. It was only 4 stars, right? So obviously, again, most of the people in the world, there's 7.8 billion people. There's 300 million Americans. right? So 7.5 billion people will be willing to switch like this with any American, with all the problems and all the debts and all the headaches that they have. So this is the land of opportunity, and again, me and you we're obviously, we were lucky that we were able and allowed to come here and create good both for ourselves and for others, right? And part of me starting Celsius was because I felt I had to give back, right? I was giving this amazing opportunity. I was successful several times. And, when you turn 50, I'm older than that, but I'm saying when you turn 50, you start looking in the mirror and ask yourself, what did you give back? Okay, you took all this stuff. Great. You're doing great. What did you give back? Did you give back enough? Are you going to be happy when you're on your last breath saying, I did everything I could? Or are you going to be like saying, gosh, this and that? So the humble beginnings definitely help, because it gives you the grit, it gives you that passion. It's you can always, even if you go back, you'll never end up where you started. You always end up ahead because you started in an outhouse. So on my mother's house, they own this tiny little house in Chernovtsi, which is the southern western part of the Ukraine. It's on the border with Romania. It's actually now I think it's like even a different country or something. But basically, so they had this little, like a shtetl, like a little house and an outhouse, and if you had to be careful because even the wood plaques were not fixed to the ground. So if you didn't walk carefully, you could end up in the pile, and there was no one to pull you out, no safety. So definitely humble beginnings. Like we didn't have a car, we didn't have vacations, we didn't have anything. And when I left, when my parents left Russia, it was me and my sister, and she was 2 years old, I was 7 years old, and I remember we crossing the borders, and the border patrol people were like, and I had one toy, like seriously, I had one toy. That's all I had, right? Like for years. And they're like, they took the toy away from me, and they're like, this is a Russian toy. You're leaving Russia, you don't need it, right? And it was like, so an outhouse and no toys.
Yeah, and how did you leave? Because at that time it was very difficult to travel, right? It was, what is so funny, and the reason I want to amplify that story is because of what's happening right now in the US. We see with everything that is going on with our freedoms, and I don't want to go into details, but people will understand when we say that. A lot of, as you said, people that were born here, they will never have the experience of that. That's why there's not much, energy going towards the opposition of all of what's happening.
Yeah, so back then the Ukraine was part of the USSR, like the Soviet bloc,
like Poland,
that had 40-something countries in it, right? All the way to Japan, right? It was Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, obviously Belarus, all the stans and all the Rus, So, your passport was your red book from the Communist Party. So you were part of the Communist Party. Like, obviously you couldn't travel overseas because the borders were blocked. You could only leave if you were a diplomat or if you had some kind of like a commercial need to leave the country. Otherwise, no, you couldn't just say, oh, I'm going to London for a trip, even if you had the money. And obviously no one had the money either. So, and back then everybody earned 100 rubles. That was the salary. It didn't matter if you were a street cleaner or if you ran the Politburo, or you were running a big factory for the government or whatever. Everybody basically earned the same salary. So, and that salary wasn't enough to buy a ticket even, or to buy a train ticket to get out. So, so when my father and grandfather decided that they're Zionists, they want to leave for Israel, immediately the government took away their passports, took away the red book, and said, you are no longer part of the Communist Party. And if you're not part of the Communist Party, you can't buy food, you can't, you don't have a salary, you don't have an income. So you become what's called a refusnik, because you were refused exit visa. You were refused, and there were like hundreds of thousands of refusnik in the Eastern Bloc, right? In Russia, Ukraine, and all the way down to like the country of Georgia and so on and so on. So they're like people everywhere, just stuck, waiting, hoping that something good will happen. And again, my parents had to borrow money from family and try to survive because they didn't have anything to live on, right? And then magically, Russia had a very strong drought. They actually didn't have food to eat. Like there was no food in the Eastern Bloc, right? Like, and people were starving to death. And the United States basically offered an exchange. They said, look, we will give you 300,000 metric tons of wheat in exchange for 300,000 Jews. All these refused. We want them out. And in exchange, we'll give you the wheat, because the United States always have more wheat than we can eat, right? I mean, it's just crazy how much, how good the agriculture here is, right? We're feeding the world with American wheat. So that happened in, I think, 1971. And the funny thing was that, well, not so funny, but so Russia said, wait a second, instead of giving him 300,000 Jews, why don't we give him like 200,000 Jews and 100,000 criminals? We'll just say that these criminals are all Jews. So they emptied all their jails and shipped all these people as Jews to the United States, you know, and all these people ended up obviously doing bad things here, just like they did bad things there. So my parents, obviously, we didn't leave Russia to come to the United States. We left Russia because there were Zionists that went to Israel. And that's why I grew up in Israel, went to the military there and so on.
Right. And then I remember you said that even if you work for the rest of your life, you can't pay that debt to the US.
Yeah. So because of that, obviously, I have a very emotional connection to the United States. I feel like this was the White House on the top of the hill. This is the place that always did the right things, that always acted not just for Americans, but for everybody worldwide. And that's part of why I came here, because I felt that this is, like you said, this is what I believe in too. So I don't believe in fixing things by donating money to charity or by going to Washington and throwing money at politicians, or by you want to change things, you build things that change society, that change humanity for the better, right? And it's not easy. I mean, you fail most of the time. If we can spend the rest of this episode talking about all the things I failed at also. It's not like everything I touched was a smashing success.
Absolutely. If people want to learn more, there's a lot of different materials where they can learn about many other ventures over the years that you've started when you came to the US. But the power.
I list all of my failures on my website. So if you want to learn about my failures, I created a website for myself to brag about my failures, Mashinsky.com. So my wife always says, she's right there. She always says, why are you advertising your failures? You learn from your failures. You don't learn from your successes. So
yeah, builds your character, like shows what you go through. But you're a very successful entrepreneur, and you've been involved in many ventures. You've built 3 unicorns. If people don't know what's a unicorn, that's a company valued at over $1 billion. So that guy.
Well, look, I built one of them in the 90s. Back then, $1 billion was $1 billion. Now $1 billion, like anyone can have $1 billion.
So what's it like now? Like 5 billion?
Probably, or if not more. Yeah, I think inflation is definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is, like, when I looked at you, because I studied your past, and I wanted to,
Let me, I think in 1996, to be on the Forbes 400, you needed maybe $400 million. Now you need like $3 billion. So it's about 10 times more. That's the ratio from, if you measure it in, if you take Forbes 400 as the measurement, then that would give you a good ratio.
Right. So right now I'm talking to one of the, richest people in America, 400, you are on the Forbes 400 richest people in America, and this is because of all the things that you've built here in the US. But what I just can't comprehend is, because you're in the future, you constantly leap into the future. I see that you live in the future. Then you're a manager because you're managing 500 people. There's probably so many bottlenecks and growing pains that you have to go through. You're a technician because you have to answer all the technical, things. So you tinker with the technology. Plus, you're a business guy, an entrepreneur. It's just crazy how many personalities you have to have. And you're a marketing guy, a great promoter, So appreciate your time here.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like, I agree with you. I have to jump from the future, come back and say to everybody, hey, come follow me. I know exactly where we're going. And a second later, they turn left and go exactly in the opposite direction. And you're like, why aren't you following me? And they're like, no, we think this is better. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's not an easy journey. It's not like, I have a unique skill. Like, I think all of us, every one of us has a unique skill. I'm lucky that I discovered my unique skill and I got to use it again and again and again. Most of us are doing something different than our skill, right? I mean, we think we want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or an engineer or whatever, but really our skill is something else, right? We just never get to discover it. So I got to do it several times, which is part of why I also feel responsible for making sure that we deliver, like if we can fix this wealth distribution, right? Because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to fix how wealth is created and distributed around the world. Instead of it going to the 1%, I'm part of the 1%, right? If I want to fix that, giving donations, giving money to charity doesn't fix anything. Why don't we fix the whole problem, right? How money is created and distributed. And if we can fix that, then everybody will have a much better opportunity to discover what they're good at, because instead of working for the money, they can work for their passion, they can work for their heart, they can work for what they're really good at. And everybody's going to do better if we do that, right? It's not like some people are going to do better, right? Because each one of us is a champion in the different things, in one thing that we do better than anyone else on this planet. Why? Because each one of us is a genetic creation that will never be replicated again. It's a unique version of humanity that will never exist again, right? But we don't get that opportunity, right? So the few of us who got that opportunity and crossed that line owe it to the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna now transition to Celsius, but first I wanted to say that I was on a call with my business partner from London recently, and I said to him, you know why I love Celsius, and I really look up to you, and I'm like, because that guy builds systems to solve problems, and there's a huge problem with money, with the wealth distributions, as you said, and you're not going with the play cards, like there's a lot of I don't want to call names, but there's a lot of morons that think that they're gonna solve. I mean, we're from Eastern Europe. We're very practical people, and you just have such a track record that it's very easy to follow you because of the charisma and the strength. And so I told my business partner, look, that guy is a builder. He doesn't just speak, spirituality, wealth distribution, blah, blah, blah. He shows you, and he builds a product. And then so that's why I brought all my, business partners and employees. I'm like, you need to use Celsius. And could you tell us?
Sure. What's so special about the blockchain is that to participate in this wealth redistribution or wealth creation, you don't have to do anything. So, like, normally you read help. I have a lot of them here. You see, like, all the help books, self-help books, and there's like 15 chapters, and you have to really change yourself completely if you want to follow those. And no one gets them, right? You have all these books, and you never change. You never get to be the person that they want you to be successful the way they were successful, right? And with the blockchain, you don't have to do any of those things. All the work can be done for you by the network. You just get to participate. Just like Voice of IP. Do you have to do anything with Voice of IP? No. You just show up. It's more of a one-to-one network. It's not really many-to-many, but you get to participate. You don't have to do anything, right? You just, by being connected to the internet, that's your investment. It's being connected to the internet. And because everybody's connected to the internet, you created that network where everyone benefits. So blockchain, crypto is exactly the same thing. That's why it's so easy for me. People go like, but why is it so easy for you? How come you make the right decision? I'm like, I've seen this movie before. I know every chapter in this movie. I lived it for 30 years, so it's almost like an unfair fight, like that's how I view it.
Right. And then, as you said, you're the inventor of the technology that we're using now in order to communicate. I just want to give people some thoughts to think, who's that guy that we're talking to? Because you're very humble. I know you're very humble. But let's go to Celsius and how you solve the problems, because that's your current project that you committed to work on till pretty much the rest of your life. Could you tell us why is it the most important project of your life?
So, again, voice over IP, you'll say, wait a second, 4 or 5 billion people use voice over IP. How can anything be bigger than that? I should be just resting on my laurels. But crypto or the blockchain is even bigger, because if I'm right, then it touches all the money in the world. So you tell me what's bigger, us being able to talk to each other, or all the money in the world? All the money in the world touches every industry, everything that exists, because everything is one way or another connected to money, right? So we had about 700 years of banking, right, that brought us to where we are today, right? Since the Venetians or the Medicis, which kind of invented banking in Italy, right? We migrated to a world in which, again, the large banks are bigger than most countries, right? Like JP Morgan is bigger with assets than many of the countries that exist worldwide. They have more assets than countries, right? So they are so powerful that everybody would say, come on, it's impossible to fight against the bank. Like, how are you going to fight against the bank? And the truth is that the banks have no power whatsoever, right? They're not the ones who create the money. They are the ones who use your money to make more money, right? So if you withdraw all your money, how much power do these banks have? That's what most people don't understand, that if you withdrew all the money from these banks, if each one of us gave back the credit card and took all the deposits and stopped giving them our salaries, our earnings, they would be out of business in no time. And it's not like, my mission is not to drive them out of business. My mission is that you can unbank yourself, meaning you can use your money to make more money. You can have your money work for you instead of you always working for the money, right? So rich people don't work for their money. Rich people, you see them, they go on vacations, they hang out, they can take 3-hour lunches. Why? Because they have so much money that the interest, the income on their money is more than they can make by just having a job. So they don't need to have a job, because just the income on their assets is much more than anyone earns on any of their money. So the world is just not a fair place, right? 99% of the people have to work hard, so the 1% of the people can benefit or yield or not have to work hard, right? And it's kind of like the same system we had when we had a king, or when we had so not much has changed. We call it capitalism, but it's not really capitalism. Most people in the United States are slaves to their mortgage, to their credit cards, to their student debt, to their all that stuff, right? So how do you unshackle yourself? How do you free yourself so you can do what you really are here for? And you don't need all these self-help books to do that. You can just work together. If we all work together to allow our capital to earn that yield, to earn that income, right? Like Celsius is $20 billion. So if we were an individual, if we were one person, we would be one of the richest people in the world. And we would go to all these really, really big banks and say, here's 20 billion. How much are you going to give me? And they would give us huge amounts of money, because that's what they do with rich people. So that's all Celsius did. We convinced enough people to join us. So we now are a very large player, and we get everyone to pay us for that money. We just distribute most of it back to our community.
Right. So if I were to rewind 6 months, maybe more, in my life, I have cash flow from the business, and the money just sits there, like we're hiring people, we're expanding, but you have the treasury is there, and also the personal money. I liquidated my property, and I started learning about money. Now you have money, you have a problem now. And then I see, Celsius 10% on your dollar. Like what? Well, how is it? That's a scam. That's there is a what's the catch? Is it for like 3 months, 6 months maybe? And then I started digging in, and I started learning about you, and it got me to the point where I see there's a payout every Monday. I get a payout, so it's just incredible. And then I brought my friend who is in a traditional finance recently. He's conservative guy, skeptical of Bitcoin and things like that. Even though he was like, I was very surprised that it grew. And that guy manages a few billions. I'm not gonna name names, but he's a smart guy. And I told him, look, there's that app pays me 10% every Monday on my dollars. I don't have any Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin. It's just my dollar sitting on Celsius. And he looked into Celsius, and he did open an account. And the thing is, he was like, what are the fees? Where do I pay? I said, no, there's no fees. It's like, there's no fees? What do you say there's no fees? How come? And he just couldn't believe. And he said, wow, maybe you can manage my money for me. I said, no, it's easy. You can just deposit the money in there, and you will start earning interest. So I'm in the process, with him. But the point of the story is that, the bank doesn't pay us anything right now. Anything, zero. And charging us fees while, there's no fees with Celsius. How do you do it while paying out the interest of 10%? And how people, I'm going to consult, add another question to kind of create a bomb question. How do people can put their fiat into the stable coin? Because that's something very important that I see there is a sort of friction.
So first, again, very rich people don't pay fees. The banks I work with, right? I don't pay an account fee. I don't pay a credit card fee. I can withdraw from any ATM in the world. I do not pay any fees, right? Because I have so much money with them that they're like, for you, nothing, no fees. So the fees, who pays the fees? The poorest people pay the overdraft fee, the withdrawal fee, the inactivity fee, right? So we are punishing when JP Morgan brags to the investors on Wall Street that they made $17 billion in 1 quarter, profit, not revenues, profit, $17 billion. Who did it come from? It didn't come from the rich people, it came from the poor people. So fees are for poor people, unfortunately, right? It should be the other way around. So now the bank takes your money, lends it to me on my credit card, right? Because I use a credit card from, let's say, Chase, right? They charge me 24%, they pay you less than 1%. So they brokered, they introduced you to me, right? They're a broker. And they kept 95% of the value, 24 and less than 1%. That's 95%. So if your real estate broker wanted to sell your house and they said to you, look, we're going to sell your house, but we're going to keep 95% of the price of the house, what would you say? Would you hire them? Or your car salesman, the guy that sold you the car, would say, look, I'm going to sell you this car, but I'm going to keep 95% of the money. So all of us are guilty. We cannot blame the bank. All of us are guilty that we allow. It's like a bad marriage, right? Like one side is constantly being abused and doesn't do anything about it. It keeps coming back and say, okay, abuse me again, So we cannot blame the banks. We cannot blame the government. We have to change our behavior. We have to build a better system, and we have to change our behavior. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a new system that always acts in the best interest of the customer. So yes, we proved it for 4 years. We paid out over $760 million in interest to 1 million customers worldwide. We proved that you can earn yield without charging any fees, give most of it back to the community, and still be profitable. Celsius is a profitable company. We keep saying that every month, every year, we're profitable, we're very profitable. I'm thinking maybe I have to pay more to the community. So the reason for that is not that we're also a toll collector. We're also keeping a little bit to ourselves. But instead of giving most of it to the shareholders, we decided to give most of it to the customers. That's the only difference. That's the invention. If you ask, okay, Alex, what did you really invent? Because you didn't invent lending, you didn't invent the blockchain, you didn't invent yield. All of that existed before. Well, we invented thinking about the customer instead of thinking about the shareholder.
As you said, very sort of Amazon-like model. But let's transition into loans, because people need loans. Like they need financing to help them pay off their whatever, their monthly bills and things like that. But the banks are just charging us. There's this whole paperwork that you have to do. I'm doing an overdraft for my business right now. Forget, I'm already 6 months in the process. C19, sorry, you need to wait 3 more months. We'll call you back in 3 months. That's just, unbelievable with the traditional banking, and I'm in the transition of creating an account, a corporate account with Celsius. So anyway, let's talk about, because having almost 45% of your customers in Europe, you offer loans for just 1%. Some jurisdictions have 0%, or if you have a platinum level, you get 0.75% on your loan, which is money for free. Like this is absolutely nuts, because so far only the countries, big institutions could get such a loan. And so how do you do it? Because probably a lot of people are like, yeah, sure, I would like to get a loan. I don't need to sell my assets.
I will make the question even harder, because you're being too nice to me, and say, wait, you're charging 0 or 1%, but you pay 8 or 9%. How is it possible that you charge so little and you pay so much? Because it makes no sense, right? I mean, how can the payout be higher than the interest that you charge for loans? So there's 2 types of loans. There is what's called an unaccredited loan, meaning a loan without collateral, right? So, and there's loans that are collateralized loans, right? So uncollateralized loans, which is what you get when you use your credit card. When you use your card to buy something, let's say you bought you bought a new iPhone and you didn't pay the balance for 30 days, the bank starts charging you 24%. In the United States, the average is 24%. Why? Because the credit they give you, that is money that they lending you, is without any collateral, right? If you don't pay tomorrow, yes, they can run after you, but they don't have anything in their hand that they can grab from you and say, okay, here, I'm going to take the money back. Celsius doesn't do any of that. Celsius only lends against collateral, against crypto collateral, right? So you must have one of the 43 different assets that we have. So we already have 100% of the money, and we're lending you 50 cents on the dollar. So I'm giving you only half or a third or a quarter of the money that you have with me. Right? So that is very important. Most people don't understand that. They think that we are generous and we're giving 0% loans. We are making money on the 0% loan, on the 1% loan, on the 9% loan, right? So the way Celsius makes money is that we always have 2 or 3 or 4 times more collateral than the money you need for your loan. You don't take the loan, the collateral earns interest. You take a loan, the collateral does not earn interest. The more collateral, now we know how to make money from collateral. We know how to make money from Bitcoin, how to make money from Ethereum. We're not trading it. We're not saying, oh, it's going up, it's going down. We just lend it or use it as collateral to make more money, right? So we use that capital, and in exchange, you get very, very cheap interest. So it's a win-win for both sides. You don't need employment verification. You don't need credit check. You don't need anything. You can apply for a loan and the same day or the next day have the money in your bank account. Why? Because we're not a bank. We don't have to ask you a million questions. You don't have to fill up 15 pages and resubmit it and go to physically sit in the branch and get dressed up and shave, because the banker may get nervous if you are not whatever, right? So We don't need any of that. We don't need to, all we know is KYC. We know here's your driving license. We know that who you are. We have your assets. We lend you against it. So because of that, we decided to give the best deal out there. There's no one offering anything even close to what Celsius offers as far as loans. And a lot of our competitors have hidden fees. Like they have 2 points, 2% origination fee. So they publish a rate, 4.95%, but then they put on top of it all kind of other fees, right? So like you said, Celsius have zero fees, no surprises, right? And by the way, thank you for being a Celsian. I didn't thank you for it. But have you ever paid a fee to Celsius? You've been with us now for 6 months,
Zero fees. And
exactly. But we're still profitable. It's very important people understand. We're not doing anyone a favor. We're not taking investors' money, like VC money, and subsidizing the interest, right? So the only company that is profitable in this business, in the lending business, is Celsius, because first we have 20 billion in assets, but also our customers are very loyal customers, and they do all their business with us. They take the loans with us. So we have enough business to make money, even though we don't charge a lot for all of these services.
And could a business also use those loans when they apply for a corporate account? Perfect.
You open a corporate account, you put collateral, and you take a loan. Now, you ask, how do you get stable coins? So
yes,
we don't create stable coins. We don't make stable coins. There are a few very good companies that make stable coins, Paxos, Circle, Tether, right? And you pick, we support 13 of them. We don't say this one is good, this one is bad. You can pick any one you want. We have a stable coin in British pound. We have a stable coin in Canadian dollar. We have a stable coin that we support. You have to go to a different company. You take your dollar, exchange it to stable coin, and then you send that to us. We then pay you interest, or we then give you a loan. We just do the last piece. We don't issue the stable coins.
Right. So if people want to buy the stable coins, they need to download the app. Obviously, Celsius. We'll link the app with the referral code, because you guys also share. Like if we refer someone, you basically they receive $50. So you guys receive $50 on your money for free just because you register through our link. Plus, also we're gonna get $50. So
you have to put $400. For 30 days, we want to pay you interest 4 times. If you're not happy after 4 times, you can withdraw $450. So you get your $400 plus the interest plus $50. You can't lose. And like you said, you don't have to buy Bitcoin. You can just go to Coinbase. If you already have a Coinbase account, that's even easier. You put a little bit of money in Coinbase. Take $400. You make that into stablecoin USDC. You buy USDC from Coinbase, you go to our wallet, you get an address, USDC address, you send USDC from Coinbase to Celsius, right? And we have a few videos that explain all that, right? You sit there for 4 weeks, you wait for 4 weeks, and you withdraw something like $451 or $52 because you're going to have the interest on it also. We pay you to withdraw. If you want to withdraw, we will pay the withdrawal fees.
No one does that.
We're so sure you're going to be happy that if you want to leave, we'll pay you to leave. How about that?
That is crazy. And again, I don't want to sound too sugary, but I've done my homework, and that's not a financial advice. I'm just incredibly honored, that you share your time. And by the way, you're a great promoter. You're so humble, open to people. And that's what I love. And you're so frugal about money. We're going to talk about, that's going to be my last question, because
I know my kids, ask my kids, they complain about it every day. They're like, but Dad, you're so rich. Why don't you let us spend money like crazy?
Because that's what people do, and that's wrong, So, and then I love that
there's a famous story about Rockefellers, So the father, the original guy who started the company, they came to him and said, look, you're wearing these really bad clothes, they smell like your son. Look at him. He is wearing, everything is tailored. Everything is perfect. So he looks at the reporter and says, well, my son, his father is a millionaire. So that's why,
Someone told me in London, dress British, think Yiddish. And that was a beautiful life lesson. But let's talk about the loans, because I want to know what are the benefits. A lot of the people are like, if I take a loan, what's it gonna do? And so there's a lot of benefits tax wise, and you're not selling your assets. If you could elaborate on that.
So there was a great article recently, I think it was in Forbes or Fortune, that showed the richest people in the world and showed how they paid nothing in taxes. And also our previous president, Donald Trump, paid nothing in taxes. Now, it's not that these people are cheating on their taxes. They're not cheating. They're just paying no taxes. So how is it possible to not pay any taxes, right? So because most regular people work for a salary, the government automatically takes half of it and says, okay, half of it is mine, taxes. But when you're very rich, and let's say your father bought a house or a building, and now this building is worth 100 times as much, as long as you don't sell the building, you do not pay taxes. Now you can go to any bank and you can say, I own this building, give me a loan. And you still don't pay taxes. So you can live on that loan, your building still increases in value, and you never have to pay tax on it. So the reason, and this is a little known secret, but it's what people have to understand is that the rules apply to everybody. This is not just rules. They check and see, okay, if you have $10 million or more, fine, you can use this. You can have $10 and you can use this rule, right? So the rule applies to everybody, but the rich use it, the poor don't use it. So when you have Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these assets, right, because of their scarcity, there's a pretty good chance that they will increase in value. Now, again, this is not about financial advice. We don't know if it's going up or down or sideways or whatever. But because there is so much inflation, so much money printing, there's a pretty good chance that Bitcoin is going to do better than the dollar, right? So if the Bitcoin price keeps going up, if you sell it, you have to give half of it to the government. But if you borrow against it, if you take a loan, business loan or personal loan, then you have the money, you can spend it, you can pay off your credit cards, you can buy a car, you can do whatever you want to do. And your Bitcoin continues to go up in value, just like that building that the rich people have, right? So the rules are the same. It's just the asset instead of a building is Bitcoin or Ethereum or something else.
Perfect. So I have two last questions, and I'll let you go for lunch, or because I hear that I think something is cooking up. So I don't know if you're gonna contribute because you love cooking.
Lunch is right here. Sushi is waiting for me. I just need to stop talking.
Exactly. So I'm gonna let you eat your lunch. Two last questions, because you repeat a lot, and I understood that, but I would like you to explain that to our audience. What does doing good, doing well mean to you, and how did you come up with that?
If you ask most people around the world, can two people win at the same time, meaning two people that are transacting together? Normally, in almost all transactions, one person is to lose for another person to win. I sell you my car. Yes, you pay me money, but somebody did a better deal. Either if the car is in very bad shape, I did a better deal. I got the money, but it's really worth half the money. Or I'm desperate, I need the money quickly. You get the car, but you only pay me half of what the car is worth because I'm in a hurry, right? So in most transactions, the two-party transaction, one side wins, one side loses. On Wall Street, when somebody makes money on the stock, that means somebody else lost money on the stock in most cases. So we are used to thinking that everything is somebody winning and somebody losing. But there are scenarios, and there was a great movie about it called The Beautiful Mind, right? About a Nobel Prize winner who discovered that there is a system in which if all of us collaborate, if all of us work together, Elliot, not Elliot Nash, I think it was, what's the guy's name? Do you remember? Nash. I forgot his first. So Nash came up with this idea, right? That everybody can win. And, I had tears when I was watching that movie, and I was like thinking to myself, okay, well, how do I create that system in the financial world? It's like I have a neuron that bothers me every day and says, can you solve this problem? Can you solve this problem? Did you solve already this problem? Are you working on the problem? So what I was trying to do is come up with a system. And I've been working on this for a very long time. This is not a crypto problem. In 2003, I was trying to create email-based payment system, meaning you could send somebody money. I could send you $20 by attaching a file to my email, and sending it to you and avoid the double spend problem, right? So I've been working on this for a very long time. Like you said, I'm a technologist, right? And when I read Satoshi's paper in 2009, I was like, come on, this is the dumbest idea. It's a slow database. You need to use tremendous amount of electricity. Crazy idea. I can't believe that anyone is even paying attention to it. So I completely dismissed it, right? And it took me a while to understand how powerful not just the Satoshi's innovation is, but also how big of a problem it's solving. So what I did, again, I'm standing like Newton said that he, when they told him, you wrote Principia, it's so amazing, how did you do it? And he said, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So the same thing here. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And it's not just Satoshi, it's 100 years of innovation, of people who invented parts and pieces of computing, of cryptography, of all these different things, right? And Satoshi added one more chapter, solving the double spend problem, right? So my innovation is, okay, how do we all collaborate together? How can we as a community, the Celsius community, collaborate together where we all win together? And the losers are the banks, the losers are the people who are not participating in the network. So that's really the crux of the matter. Like if you want to dig into that, that's where you're going to find a lot of innovation.
Yeah, and I wanted to congratulate you because there is 1 million Celsians, so 1 million community. Imagine, guys, that right now there's 1 million people, 1 million customers on Celsius platform, and that's just the start. You have a mission to bring 100 million people, and you don't drink.
Yeah,
you don't smoke, you don't party, and so what do you do? Like, what does your day look like as a founder? Like, you don't do any of those things, yet you're a great father. Again, I studied you, and I admire that. Those are the values. That's how I make my investment decision. I look at the values, and I look at, wow, this guy is just crazy. Multiple personalities and beautiful values, and so much, track record. So can you describe one of your days? Maybe Friday, because there's an AMA. So we're gonna introduce people, like wrapping up.
I usually start the day at like 7 a.m. I have meetings every half hour, like starting 8 a.m. usually. Like my team books me pretty solid, so I would usually take like half an hour to lunch or try to, like today I had to run to the bank, so I didn't even have lunch yet. But normally, I'll work till like 7 p.m. probably, have dinner, and don't go out. Like you said, I usually have dinner with family or sometimes with friends or whatever, and then I'll either read or I watch a lot of YouTube content, so I kind of catch up on technology, on crypto, on news, mostly through people that I trust on YouTube as contributors. So I'll definitely be watching your show. I heard you have a famous guest coming up, some guy that claims to invented voice of IP or something.
The real, you're gonna become the father of no Grucha. So Grucha is basically, just to give you, that's our culture. So we come up with that because a lot of people that I hired initially were Gruchas. So people were, lazy. I was not experienced. I didn't know who to hire. And my business partner says, stop hiring Gruchas, in Polish, because he's a Polish American. And we're like, okay, that's great. Let's create a culture, no Gruchas. Because there's a study, by, there's a famous poll, and which says that 76% of Americans are not happy at work, and they're disengaged at work. How can you imagine how much of a waste of energy that is? It's crazy.
Exactly. Like if you're happy at work, if you're happy with what you're doing every day, then you don't really work, right? Work is when you're not happy. If you're happy, then what kind of work is that? So I only work on what I'm really passionate about, what I like, and because of that, I don't feel like I'm working. Like many times I'll work on a Saturday or on a Sunday because, again, if I don't solve this problem or address the issue, it just goes in my head. Like I can't let it go. So I need to clean it out, right? Just clear it out of my to-do list. But I do have hobbies. I mean, like I ride motorcycles, I do kite surfing, I love to travel. So when I get a chance, I definitely do those things.
Did you
Not
guys go?
Corona was definitely not helping.
Did you guys go with Zach on the motorcycle yet?
I don't have a motorcycle license. I have like an international license, and they're like, no, that's not good enough. You need I have a driving license, but they're like, no, you have to have a motorcycle license. I'm like, I don't have a motorcycle license. So I was supposed to go on that trip, but it didn't happen. So
right, Alex. Last question, and we're going to wrap up. People have never been taught about money. You know, as you said, majority of the people that are listening, we've been taught, you know, by the old legacy, you know, educational system. What would be your two to three most important, you know, tips, lessons about money that you've learned throughout your life?
So, you know, again, people have to understand, like, you're going to spend a third or a quarter or half of your life working, right? And you work because you're exchanging. It's like a barter. You're exchanging your time for money, right? So if you don't know, like, you're going to spend a quarter of your time or a third of your time of your life, and you don't know what you're getting, what are you getting back? Do you want to know anything about it? Or if I was paying you with potatoes, would you still work? Right? So you have to understand what you're getting, and then you have to make the most out of it. And so it's not about becoming a world expert in finance or getting a PhD in economics or understand how the Fed works. This is about you, the relationship between you and your money, understanding what does the money do? Is it good? Is it bad? How does it grow? Do you need to water it? Right? If you had a plant, do you learn about the plant? Do you know how to take care of it? It's the same thing. You need to learn how to take care of your money. So for each person, they have a different goal. Some people make money so they can spend it right away, right? They just want to live their life, right? They're living for the moment. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Some people want to save for retirement. They want to have all the money at the end of the journey. Again, not saying if it's good or bad, but if you have a plan, you need to also understand how to get there. What is the journey to get there? And what Celsius does is really, we have basically, I always compare us to Costco, you know, because Costco is like a great warehouse that has all these great products. And you go into the warehouse, you have a membership, right? It's just like you have a Celsius membership, and you know every product there is the cheapest, best quality, and you just fill up your cart and you check out, and you know you've got a great deal. So Celsius is the same way, but just for financial products. But we cannot tell you if you should buy more pasta, or you need toilet paper, or you need orange juice, or you need chewing gum, right? You have to make those decisions. We just put all the financial products in the warehouse, and we give you all the options. You have to do the studying. You have to understand what your goals are, and then use the right product for that. And like Marcin was saying, for you, it's mostly stable coins. You want to earn that yield in stable coins, right? So you don't have Bitcoin. That's fine. People have to understand that you can come to Celsius, just take dollars, convert them into stable coins.
That's the beauty that a lot of people don't know about.
Right. Take it out, get all your dollars out, never touch Bitcoin, never touch Ethereum, never know anything about the blockchain. And that is fine. That is great. Never take a loan. No problem. You win, we win. The rest of the Celsius community win, because you helped us with this money that you put in. You helped us be big enough to pay 8.8%. Without you, we would only earn 4%. And that's what people don't understand. People think like, no, if I join, the rate will go down. No, our rates have gone up almost every year. When we launched, we were 4.5%. And we raised the rates because as we got bigger, we could do bigger loans. We could demand more interest, not less interest.
Perfect. So I think you're promoting, you know, I'm a Costco member and I'm a Celsius member, and I think your Costco membership should be free. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call their CEO, and I'm going to say, hey, come on the podcast, because Alex was on the podcast. Now you have to come on the podcast and give Alex a free membership, and then put Costco treasuries into Celsius. How about that? We're going to create a beautiful synergy.
And we don't charge members. Costco charges your yearly fee. We don't. So it's free. It's free to be a Celsius member.
Perfect. So I trust you, you know, with my hand on my heart. I have my money and I'm pouring more. And where would people go to, you know, read more about you, about Celsius?
We have a YouTube channel, Celsius Network. Just do a search. on Twitter, Celsius Network, or my channel Mashinsky @Mashinsky, my last name. Also Celsius.network on the website, and my personal website Mashinsky.com. You will find all the information you need to know over there. Plenty. We have thousands of videos and content and everything else. And again, if you want to do due diligence, again, ask people. I guarantee you have a friend or you have someone you know that is already a Celsius customer. So you just need to ask around and ask them for their experience. Just say, look, did you ever have any fees? Did you ever try to withdraw and they couldn't withdraw it? Did you ever have a problem that they promised you something and they didn't deliver, right? So again, I use the service every day for myself, right? So if I'm not happy, believe me, they hear from me right away. And they're like, okay, the Alex is upset. Let's go fix it. So if I make sure that the product is perfect and I make sure that everybody benefits from it, we all win together.
Thank you for your time, Alex. Last thing, you can open an account with Celsius by clicking on the referral link under the video, and you'll get $50 when you deposit your first $400. So try it out, give it a go. It's absolutely incredible. You're gonna get hooked. It's like a drug dealer, when you put a bit of your stable coins, you're like, what is this Bitcoin? Like maybe I'll have some. So if you wanna learn more about the latest technology, plus you wanna, a trusted source, Alex and Celsius is the way to go. I don't use any other company. Thank you, Alex, for your time.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for being a Celsian.
Thank you. Enjoy your sushi, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Życie bez gruchy. Jedyny życiowy podcast w Polsce stworzony dla geeków.